All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and much grace was upon them all. There were no needy persons among them, for from time to time, those who owned lands or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet. And it was distributed to anyone as he had need. Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostles called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, sold a field he owned and brought the money and put it at the apostles' feet.
Defending the Sabbath, Part 9. The disciples took up a collection on Sunday, so Sunday is the new day of observance.
1 Corinthians chapter 16. Paul writes to the Corinthians, he's writing about the offering, the collection. Concerning the collection for the saints, Paul was trying to collect some money for the poor saints in Jerusalem. And some of the Gentile churches had money that they could send to provide some relief for the poor saints in Jerusalem. What happened was there were pilgrims in Jerusalem when Pentecost happened, and many of them were converted. Well, they didn't want to go back to their town. What would you go back to? There was a Jewish synagogue there, and there were pagan temples, but there weren't any churches there. There was only one church in Jerusalem, so they stayed. So how would they live? There were believers in Jerusalem who, when they embraced Christ, were kicked out of their houses. Somebody had to take them in. So providing some relief to care for these people was challenging. You remember, some people sold land and took the money and gave it to the apostles to be distributed to care for these people, as we learn in the early chapters of Acts. So Paul has this notion of collecting money for the saints in Jerusalem, in the same way as he directed the churches in the region of Galatia to do it. He wanted the Corinthians to do it as well. So here's what he told them. On the first day of every week, each one of you is to put aside and save as he may prosper, that no collections be made when I come. I just want you to make it a matter of course in your Sunday worship. Offerings were taken on the first day of the week.
1 Corinthians 16, verse 1 and 2, now about the collection for the Lord's people. On the first day of the week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income. So a collection was being received or taken. You receive or take it, however you want to put it. Church service, right? So this is happening on Sunday, the first day of the week.
1 Corinthians 16, upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God hath prospered him. So that means take up the offering, okay? If you're supposed to tithe, God gave you $300 this week, give $30 to the gospel out, okay?
1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 through 2. Now concerning the collection, the saints, as I directed the churches of Galatia, so also you are also to do. On the first day of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up, that he may prosper, so that there will be no collecting when I come.
Is it true? The early church took up a collection on Sunday, indicating a change in the day of observance.
The first day of the week, 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 1 and 2, we can look at that. First of all, it does not say that they met on Sunday in this verse, only that they were to set an offering aside. He says on the first of the week, which, by the way, there is argument, Chris, that the first of the week in Hebrew could actually possibly mean one of the Sabbaths. Now, I don't subject to that. I actually believe that it means one of Sabbath, which is how they counted in the first century. The first day till Sabbath, the second day till Sabbath, because everything was about the Sabbath. So by the mere fact that they even chose the Greek phrase, mia sabbaton, proves the fact that they were counting, the entire counting system in the first century revolved around the Sabbath, because it does not say on Sunday. It does not even say the first day of the week. It says one of Shabbat. And every historical commentator that knows the original language in its context knows that that's how they counted, was one of the Shabbat, two of the Shabbat. And so they met on the first of the Shabbat, but it does not say that they met on this verse. It only says that they were to set aside an offering on this. And what's even more interesting is the Greek phrase, lay by him in store. Every commentator that I could find of a Greek academia says this, that it means store it up at home. There was no bringing it to church. There was no church, ladies and gentlemen, in the first century. It was the synagogues, and the synagogues were closed. on Sunday. It was the Romans that kept their Sabbath on the Sunday, the venerable day of the sun.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 2 through 3. On the very first day of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up, as he may prosper, so that there will be no collecting when I come. And when I arrive, I will send those whom you accredit by letter to carry your gift to Jerusalem. The wording here in the Greek is very similar to that found in Acts chapter 20. This verse here in 1 Corinthians parallels the collecting of an offering to be taken up to Jerusalem on Pentecost, or Shavuot in the Hebrew. How do we know this? It is written in the Torah. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16. 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yahweh your God at the place that he will choose, at the feast of unleavened bread, at the feast of weeks, and at the feast of booths. They shall not appear before Yahweh empty-handed. Shavuot, or Pentecost, was also called the Feast of Weeks because of the counting of the weeks. Paul was instructing them on a commandment found in the Old Testament. The church today misses so much because it has overlooked the Old Testament as just good stories to learn from and not as the basis on which the New Testament was truly established.
So, we see that most likely the early church stored a collection at home. Additionally, in this text, the early church met to take up a collection on one of the Sabbaths, and not on Sunday. End part 9.